is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Thursday, February 27th, and it's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. And once again, this is C.A. Newry and I shall be your host for today. Today we have a full studio. We have Aaron Green, who will be my co-host for today. And long return, we have Ian Munnings, who's going to be joining us today as we have a loose conversation about immigration. Not necessarily immigration, though. I'm trying to understand what is our official policy. And when I say our official policy, I mean this administration regarding immigration. Recently, I saw in the newspaper a headline says U.S. hardens visa sanctions over Cuba medical program. I sent that to you, Aaron, because I may want you to read that. In fact, what I understood is, as you know, we tend to import labor here in the Bahamas. We have a number of Ghanaian nurses here. We have had Cuban doctors here employed. The U.S. seems to be enacting a new policy, right? And you pulling that up from your Aaron, so you can get to read that in the record. I can talk about it in the meantime. It seems to be, for what I read, what I understood, that the U.S. plans to evoke sanctions to allies, nations who uses Cuban labor force. I'll have that loosely. I can make sure I read it properly and have Aaron read it there so we all understand if that's the case. I also want to put in the conversation that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, right, mentioned repeatedly that there is a need for foreign labor because there's a labor shortage. I'm going to read that into the record so we can have that juxtaposed. And then I also, his recent utterance where he said, man, I'm frustrated. No, that's my words. But basically that he said, man, it looks like I don't have to answer you all anymore. You have a quote for it?
Mitchell says, answering questions, quote, isn't worth the trouble, close quotes. Quote, that's one of the reasons why I refuse to talk about immigration, close quotes. He said, quote, people don't want to know the facts. The facts like the last census tells us the rate of birth in the country is below a replacement level, so the population is declining. The only reason we grew over the last 10 years is because of immigration.
The only reason that our population grew over the last, how much years? 10 years?
Yeah.
Is because we have immigrants coming here. We are short people in the Bahamas. That's what I'm assuming from this, right? And that if we are to meet our mandate of having enough people in the Bahamas, we may have to embrace more immigration. And this is why I mentioned that. No, you don't think that's what I would have said?
No. That's not what I was going to say, sir. Sorry, I did not mean to challenge you in that fashion.
Go ahead.
What I going to ask was this: was that in the blueprint for change?
We can analyze that too soon.
Okay, I just checking.
But see, I want to understand whether this is the policy of the government. Is this a thing? We have accepted that at this present time, our population is not growing fast enough.
Yeah.
That we have challenges with having educated workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, our policy is in migrants and of all sorts. Not picking on anyone in particular. We will be encouraging migrants to come to the Bahamas, that we stay ahead of the game.
Second inquiry. I realize, maybe let me read the first sentences from the article. Mitchell says, answering questions, quote, isn't worth the trouble, close quote, sometimes. 26th of February, 2025, Nassau Guardian. Amid backlash over a cabinet minister's revelation that the government rehired nearly 500 retirees, Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell said sometimes it, quote, isn't worth the trouble, close quotes, to answer questions in this country. He made the comment in a voice note. That's the point I wanted to make.
So that's the chairman speaking.
Except the article says it's the cabinet minister of foreign affairs.
Which newspaper?
Fred Mitchell said.
Which newspaper right there?
Nassau Guardian.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's go.
But
continue.
in a voice note, he
In
said
voice
it.
note.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you want me to read this article from France 24? That's the publication.
Yes.
U.S. hardens visa sanctions over Cuba medical program. This article was posted on the 25th of February. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a Cuban-American and vociferous foe of the communist government in Havana, said the United States also bar visas to foreign government officials who assist the program.
See, what does that mean? And how does it apply to the Bahamas?
Here's my question. Is this a line in the sand? I mean, I guess we have to determine what it means before we could ask the question, is it a line in the sand? But it suggests to me if the Bahamian government endorses, authorizes, and facilitates a work program that hires nurses or doctors from Cuba to work in the Bahamas, that all of those government officials will have their visas revoked. Now, the question is, will they have their diplomatic visas revoked, or will they have their personal visas, their private citizen visas, revoked?
And see, remember, like, was that CARICOM who just who the Prime Minister just met with recently?
In Barbados,
In
where
Barbados.
they signed a little loan agreement.
Does
thing?
this warrant a CARICOM response?
Yes.
Right? Should Bahamas included be concerned about this policy? Because we have Cuban doctors and Cuban nurses here.
Let me follow that up. Is this an issue that should be properly explained to the Bahamian people and their feedback used to make the decision?
And who should speak? Should the Minister of Foreign Affairs be the one to explain it? Like how we did with the government policy regarding Bahamian women having children in the United States. He came forward and hashed that out. Does this need a hash out to explain moving forward? And see, this article, and we didn't finish, also raised concern about, and I use the word Bahamians in quotes because it didn't call the Bahamas, right? But it means countries who deals with Cuba. In this case, we can say the Bahamas. For Bahamians who seek medical attention in Cuba, that these visas may be revoked also.
So we need clarification whether a private citizen that has a U.S. visa risks having that visa revoked if they seek medical care in Cuba.
And just remind people where we got this article from so they can go and search it themselves.
All right.
and join the conversation or raise any concern about it in general.
A publication, France24.com. The article's title is U.S. hardens visa sanctions over Cuba medical program. Second, the follow-up question, is the United States of America, is the federal government facilitating relationships with countries and states to provide access to affordable health care services in the United States? And what if countries are relying on quote-unquote Cuban medical programs because of a large percentage of their citizens are unable to afford treatment in the U.S., given that said treatment is currently not available in their own country, or are unable to acquire visas to travel to the U.S. to access said health care? And is the federal government prepared to create a program that facilitates access for foreign nationals who no longer can access the same medical services program that's been operationalized in their country?
I just give you a new article to read from Rubio. I think it's from.
Well,
It's similar, but definitely from his.
No,
Yeah?
no, don't.
Go ahead.
Pause. From the U.S. Department of State.
Yes.
Okay.
The official one.
I don't know.
U.S. Department of State.
Yeah, I just saying I don't know.
Yeah, but read that.
Rubio don't have expansion of visa restrictions policy for individuals exploiting Cuban labor. Today we announced the expansion of an existing Cuba-related visa restriction policy that targets forced labor linked to the Cuban labor export program. It's like the contract.
Yes.
This expanded policy applies to current or former Cuban government officials and other individuals, including foreign government officials, who are believed to be responsible for or involved in the Cuban labor export program, particularly Cuba's origins.
Wouldn't that be our Minister of Foreign Affairs? Because he would negotiate the contract regarding the doctors and the nurses who come to the Bahamas?
And the Minister of Health and the AG's office.
And the Ministry of Labor.
And the Ministry of Finance, because they have to organize the paying of said.
That's why I said this needs to be explained. And I assume that the Minister of Foreign Affairs will lead the charge to explain how does this impact the Bahamas.
This policy also applies to the immediate family.
What do you mean, immediate family? You know that most of them was HHT. I related to them, these people. Go ahead. I'm just joking.
This policy also applies to the immediate family of such persons. The department has already taken steps to impose visa restrictions on several individuals, including Venezuelans, under this expanded policy. Cuba continues to profit from the forced labor of its workers and the regime's abusive and coercive documented. Cuba's labor export programs, which include the medical missions, enriched the Cuban regime and, in the case of Cuba's overseas medical missions, deprive ordinary Cubans of the medical care they desperately need in their home country. The United States is committed to countering forced labor practices around the globe.
They're suggesting slavery?
I mean, after the Tuskegee Airmen experiment and then the things that were happening in Guatemala and the sterilization of women, I support the U.S. federal government in its staunch commitment to countering forced labor practices around the world and to stand up to those involved in said things.
Continue reading.
I'm going to start from here. Cuba's labor export programs, which include the medical missions, enrich the Cuban regime, and in the case of Cuba's overseas medical missions, deprive ordinary Cubans of the medical care they desperately need in their home, countering forced labor practices around the globe. To do so, we must promote accountability, not just for Cuban officials responsible for these policies, but also those complicit in the exploitation and forced labor of Cuban workers. This visa restriction policy is taken pursuant to Section 212A3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act.
That's it there? Mm-hmm. Now let's go back to the Minister of Foreign Affairs reasoning about labor and we being short. I think I sent that to you too.
All right, so we're reading from the article, Mitchell, We Need Foreign Labor?
Yes.
9th of January, 2024. Amid ongoing concern over an influx of migrants from neighboring Haiti, Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell said there is a need for their labor and that migration is required to maintain the Bahamas' population. He made the comments last week when asked about recent worries over the construction of shanty towns on Abaco and the broader topic of migration from Haiti. Quote, "So, Abaco and labor issues in this country are complex," close quotes, Mitchell said. Quote, first of all, a major shortage and requires labor from the outside to complete many of the jobs here. Quote, the population of the Bahamas is either at replacement level or just below replacement level, quote, so its rate of natural increase is in fact declining. This has all kinds of implications for national insurance, for pensions, and all the rest of it. Quote, if you go on construction sites, you can't find workers. So you have to bring in workers from the outside, close quotes. According to the latest census, the Bahamas population increased by 13.6% from 2010 to 2022, largely as a result of migration. Mitchell said, while the situation is not unique to the Bahamas, there is a lack of understanding of it among the public. I just wanted a small I wanted a small moment of silence.
That's your cousin.
No, I wanted a small moment of silence to commemorate what I just read.
Read it again.
Oh, I didn't know I could read it again. Quote, he says, Mitchell said, while the situation is not unique to the Bahamas, there's a lack of understanding of it among the public. Before I read...
I just don't understand.
That's because you all don't tell us. First of all, was this in the blueprint for change?
Yeah, that's your cousin now.
No.
That's your cousin.
Listen.
We can discuss it today.
CA, she's jumped on your family, but now it's her family now.
Hold on. There are many Mitchell fans. Let us proceed.
Clearly, the public does not understand the immigration complexities.
No.
We need to hash it out. And I said we have a duty of care to ask a question.
I agree with you. Hold on. Let me agree with you.
What it is.
Clearly, the Bahamian public don't understand. That's where I stop agreeing with you. We understand the complexities of the migration issue.
If it's needed.
We don't understand what the government's policy on migration is.
What their position may be.
No, I know what the boy who would send voice notes out every day. I know what his position is. But a chairman sends out those voice notes, not a cabinet minister.
Let's go back to the article where the frustration.
Okay.
I'm going to read the quote again and then go back. Why is it difficult to try to explain this immigration issue?
Okay. Okay, quote, I get the impression that people don't want to know the truth. All they want to do is find something to row about. I just want to critique that. But let me just critique that. We may want to have any difficulty finding anything to row about. Every day you'll get something to row about. I just wanted to
get that out.
To clarify that. Let me continue reading the quote. He said, questioning why critics want to attack police officers or teachers being rehired to fill needed gaps. Nobody did that, sir. As soon as y'all sent out the very detailed list saying that 213 of the people were police, we understood, and we have a whole different set of questions about that. Mitchell said data from the latest census shows birth rates in the country have fallen, leading to a declining population. He said many people will have to work beyond the age of 65, the current retirement age, in order to keep the Bahamian economy going. Despite the data, he said many people seem to not want to face the reality. This is it here. Hold on. All of that was context so you could understand this quote here. Quote, that's one of the reasons why I refuse to talk about immigration.
Repeat it again.
Quote, that's one of the reasons why I refuse to talk about immigration. But Mr. Newry, there's a quote that I wanted to share from yesterday's discussions where Fred Mitchell intimates or suggests that, remember when he said that the statistics people didn't want to give a presentation to the political parties because they didn't want to create a conflict?
Mm-hmm. And it's about
so
immigration
if
again.
you, sir, have a problem getting the statisticians to talk to your people at your request, you think that I, little old me, or the general public is going to convince staff from the Department of Statistics to just share information and give public presentations as if they're authorized to disseminate the information that they gather in any way that they see fit? I just wanted to reference that, because if you are having a problem, sir.
You think there's a problem there?
It's 2 more days until group season opens, sir. It's 2 more days till group season open.
So I'm catching it now.
But chance,
So
don't try
catching
bake
it now.
me now.
So I'm catching it now.
Finish that piece. I'm going to send you another article on the record in terms of the confusion on whether it's our government policy for immigration.
All right. I can continue reading the quote from Mr. Mitchell. From the article, Mitchell says answering questions, quote, isn't worth the trouble sometimes. Yesterday's Nassau Guardian said, that's one of the reasons why I refuse to talk about immigration, he said. Quote, people don't want to know the facts. The facts, like the last census tells us the rate of birth in the country is below a replacement level, so the population is declining. The only reason we grew over the last 10 years is because of immigration. Quote, the country is getting older. Young people are getting to be a smaller percentage of the population. So our country's economy will require more and more people to work beyond the age of 65 if we are to survive. I didn't make that up. The census is clear. It's just unfortunate that the people who did the census refused to come and speak to the political parties on the false argument that there's going to be some kind of political contamination, close quotes, he said. Well, I kind of appreciate their concern, because it's their job to be concerned, especially when you say, I didn't make that up, the census is clear.
Who
Hold
did
on.
the census?
Pause. Statistics. All it is data. Somebody somebody correlates the data, puts it together to present a particular narrative.
Right.
Somebody did that. The census didn't do that.
I sent you another article I want you to read. And the reason why I sent this one is to juxtapose this position about immigration and my inquiry about whether this is a government's policy. What is happening now is government policy. But something is happening in Grand Bahama, right? Because Grand Bahamians also say, man, we have a shortage too, right? Basically following the Minister of Foreign Affairs positioning on we need more labor. But when you read this, you become confused. They come up yet?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what else I could do to encourage you all to go out and buy a copy of the Nassau Guardian every day that it's published, because sometimes we read these stories, but you got to see the picture attached to the story to appreciate what is being said. We're reading from the article, Immigration Irrelevant to Freeport's Economic Issues, Nassau Tribune, Monday, February 17th. Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Fred Mitchell rejected claims that immigration controls in Freeport have stifled economic growth, saying the issue is, quote, irrelevant, close quotes, to the city's economic challenges, which he attributed to Grand Bahama Port Authority's current leadership. His comment came after GBPA Executive Director Rupert Haywood said at the Grand Bahama Business Outlook last week that excessive red tape, strict immigration policies, and regulatory changes have hindered Freeport's investment growth, while also expressing frustration with the slow pace of government approvals for projects in the pipeline. Mr. Mitchell, responding to questions from the Tribune, suggested Mr. Haywood's comments were inappropriate. Listen, maybe this is another inappropriate conversation. Like, maybe the government needs to see itself as a body and its various parts as organs, and then realize that if the heart and brain sends, there may be a problem. You have to work at the pace of your own policies.
And the reason why I wanted you to read that, right? Because at one particular position, you found that labor is important. We need to import more labor in order to push the
So important that you all need to push aside your most major concern in modern life in the Bahamas. Just push it aside.
And then when it was brought up again for Grand Bahama, saying, yes, we do agree with you. We need more labor. Say, no. Y'all don't need no more labor. I was just saying, we need more labor.
Because I'm about to say,
Are they separate and
hold
apart?
on, twin disasters. First of all, you tell us that There's no room at the inn because we have to rehire all of these grandparents who have to take care of their grandchildren. And on the other side of the island, you're saying, yeah, there's no room. I mean, because there are people who are unemployed and people who are underemployed trying to figure out
Make it make sense.
where are the jobs that you need these migrants for.
But this is the question I'm asking you. So when they did the data, right, and the data would have reflected based on what they were saying, that there is a need for importation of labor. The question is, how many young Bahamians, the ones that have migrated somewhere else due to not working, before we even start the conversation? Because every year when school ends, we have a mass number of young individuals that are leaving the school institution. Where are they?
You remember that article where they say Bahamians are unqualified? You have that article?
So are they saying they're unskilled?
The foreign census type thing.
No, I don't have the. Is it IMF?
IMF.
The IMF, yeah.
See, I hear you, Ian, but the IMF saying that they are unemployed.
So,
hold on,
you're
hold
saying
on.
that we
Here's
do
what
have
I-
people here, but you're saying to me that they are not being employed because they are not skillful enough.
Well, here's what
So that's two different
So
conversations.
hold on. Here's what I do
That
have.
is two different conversations.
The Caribbean's education system, what do declining pass rates reveal, right? So here's a story from yesterday's paper. Org has recommended reforms in education. Org's commentary is a response to this conversation emanating from the World Bank, a study, and the study is, I got the name of the study right here, Education, there was a webinar, Education Transformation Addressing the Learning and Skills Crisis in the Caribbean. But there is a World Bank Bahamas assessment that was released recently in response to the discussion emanating from the World Bank webinar and the study that was released. And essentially, if I read from the Caribbean's education system, what do declining pass rates reveal? When students across the Caribbean received their CXC results last summer, a concerning picture emerged. Only 4.9% of students, close to 200,000 students for the Caribbean secondary education certificate exams, passed 5 or more subjects, including mathematics and English. And particularly alarming is the rate in mathematics, with just 36% of students passing that subject in 2024. So only 36% of the students across the Caribbean that take the CXC exam passed math. Only 36%.
The Caribbean seems to be in crisis in terms of education. But
Yeah.
now, in terms of getting employment based on this
You need skills.
education, you need skills, especially technical
You need
skills.
skills in the technological time.
And so perhaps we need, what the chairman is saying, that perhaps for our future, our benefit, we need to
Happened to all the specialty areas where we have been importing people. And these people have been in our country for 5, 10, maybe 15 years. With Bahamians
Like,
training,
why aren't they training other
with
Bahamians?
Bahamians underneath them? Here goes the situation now that we are now incurring
Okay,
with
'cause
the
here's a problem.
491 people.
I can tell you why. Because you cannot teach professionalism outside of a culture of professionalism. And you cannot operate professionally outside of a culture of professionalism. So even if you have experts come down and you have Bahamian understudies, right? What happens is that the quality of that process of transference of information is diminished because they're operating in a dysfunctional environment. But let me read a paragraph quickly from the article, The Caribbean's Education System, What Do Declining Pass Rates Reveal? A foundational learning crisis. The data points to a larger systemic problem. A crisis in foundational learning in the Caribbean. Foundational learning involves basic literacy, numeracy, and transferable skills, which are building blocks for a life of learning. In many Caribbean countries, students leave mastering these skills, which hampers their ability to succeed in secondary education and beyond. See, I did like that term mother's wit, when the Prime Minister used it, mother's wit. I mind you, he only ever used it, the term and it once. But the point is that I now don't like it because it suggests that either you have that innately right? Or you learn it from at home. And this article is suggesting that you're supposed to leave primary school with a degree of mother's wit, an ability to make sense of what's happening around you and convey it.
I see we have a call here, and Kermit prepped the call so we can engage them. But I'm still trying to comprehend or appreciate whether it's the policy of this administration to allow immigration, right? The Minister of Foreign Affairs said he finds it frustrating to trying to keep on explaining it, especially when you not considering the census or that you should consider the census.
So maybe two things. Is it that the Davis administration is sending out conflicting messages about its immigration policy? I mean, just looking at statements from the Minister of Foreign Affairs versus the chairman of the PLP has to be a degree of conflict. But is it possible that the Davis administration is responsible for its own frustration because it continues in a duplicitous messaging with one side of their mouth? They're saying that they're opposed to immigration, migrants are taking Bahamians' jobs, and the Davis administration is clearing that up and making and providing access and making space for Bahamians. But in another breath, there's actors from the same Davis administration, and sometimes it's the same place, are saying, what is wrong with y'all? How is it that you cannot understand at this point in time that we need?
But if we're bringing in the foreign help, we don't have a problem bringing in the foreign help, because if we need the foreign help to aid us in the infrastructural development of the nation, we will do that. But they can't be taxed the same way that the residents are being taxed. That's something totally different. But as a Bahamian from the soil, I have a right to this place. They are coming in, reaping the right from the Bahamians, ripping it out, taking it somewhere else. That's where the problem comes in.
Let's go and engage this caller right now, and we'll come back and go into detail.
Quickly, because for me, what it is I'll take you seriously when I see policies that actually reflect what you're saying. Do you have a work program? Do you have a contract? Do you have a policy statement or initiative that reflects that you are prepared to receive migrants for a specific purpose and then return them safely to their jurisdiction of origin?
Yeah. Kermit, patch the caller through. Good morning, caller, Guardian Radio AM.
Hi, yes, good morning. Cecil, Aaron, is anyone else there?
Ian is here. Ian is here.
Okay, good morning, Ian.
Morning.
Good morning to the nation. You're stepping over the conversation as it relates to immigration, in my view, and the implications, and where we really should be examining. Unless I missed it, all this information says is that the Bahamas economy has been performing. There's no question about that. But it has only been performing for a minimal amount of people in the economy, in the country. The Bahamas, and this isn't just happening under the PLP government. This has been occurring for as long as the Bahamian economy existed, before tourism fell around 1990, right? Where the economy was actually performing.
Antoine, that's very interesting, but we really just talking about, quote unquote, what is the Davis administration's immigration policy?
Right. I'm gonna end with that. But I just wanted to ensure that the larger, more important point is appreciated.
Tell me again, what is the larger, more important point?
I just said it.
No, I mean repeat it for me.
The Bahamas economy needs to be rebooted to perform for the many citizens, as I would have brought this level of discussion to the conversation at least 20 years ago from talk shows open up. We have 5,000 to 7,000 students graduating from high schools. That doesn't include university level education. That doesn't include technical level education, right? Also, in addition to that, we have a reality and circumstance where many students learn differently. Some learn more effectively in the blue collar. Some learn as effectively in the area of scholastica. And so you have to you have to be able to approach both of those simultaneously. In
What's-
addition to that,
What's the temperature on the ground within the PLP in this matter? Is there a conflict of ideas? Are there conflicting factions in terms of what is the Davis's immigration policy? Is there rumblings? Are people upset? Are people happy?
well, let me say this first here, and then I can answer you. What we actually need is a reality-based approach, which moves beyond labeling and using as an excuse, and use the approach that has been pushing this country forward for at least 50 years, which is a lot of on-the-job training that's taking place. That if we go back to the Bahamianization policy in a real way, where the on-the-job training takes place.
Who teaches? Hold on. Who teaches Bahamians how to drive? Bahamians, right?
Bahamians.
That's
Bahamians.
restricted to Bahamians, right?
Bahamian.
You see what's happening? I don't like that. I don't like the on-the-job training thing. I don't like it. I don't like it. Only Bahamians teaching Bahamians how to drive.
But to answer your question, Aaron, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and in my observation, we have been led by populist decision making, right? And that's most unfortunate, and it doesn't help in any intelligent nor progressive way. We need to make the decision as to what we are going to do and do it. Some people are going to go along, some people are going to have to be dragged along. But the facts are, as the statisticians at NIB has already revealed in reports for decades now, we have a declining population. Oh, I remember one more point I want to make here. We have a declining population. We have, in terms of the growth and performance of the National Insurance Fund, we need a bigger population to support our economy. We are operating an economy.
I don't like it, Anton. I don't like it, Anton. I don't like what you're saying. First of all, it sounds like that emanates straight from the 310 gang policy book. I don't like it, Anton, because it's the people who need the work who are saying it. See, I can't get behind it. That you did a bad job, and now you telling me I need you to tell me that you did a bad job, and then I need you to fix the bad job that you did, and you haven't told me how you can fix the bad job yet.
Yep, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we can interrogate the government spending habits now, and especially about they're flying away, right? Let's talk about that briefly, right? This segment is brought to you by Click. The Bay of the Bahamas invites you to Victory Fest 2025. Join us Saturday, March 1st at Smuggler Square for an epic celebration of the 2024 Boxing Day and 2025 New Year's Day Junkanoo winners, the Saxon Superstars. The Junkanoo season may be over, but the celebration is just getting started. Enjoy music by Playhouse DJ and performing live, Fan Show and DMAC. Let's celebrate the 4 straight Junkanoo winners, Shell Saxon Superstars.
Who you think can get Personality of the Year? It could be Sir Jabats, I Catch Flights, Not Feelings, or is it could be Singing Pastor Lawrence, Loose as a Goose? Who you think it could be?
I can think about that. We'll be right back.
Just sign in and have a seat, please. They'll call you in for your x-ray shortly.
That's why they call it a waiting room. You won't have that problem at Fourth Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor. We never schedule multiple appointments, so you'll be in and out in no time. And if your initial screening reveals a concern, our radiologist can conduct an alternative screening right then and there. Call 328-8157 to schedule an appointment at Fourth Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor today.
Girl, Junior just showed me Bella Boy in his phone.
What you mean? He take picture of that good-for-nothing boy?
Shh, you don't want Bella here. You say that. You know she always say that's my good child.
So what he doing in Junior phone?
Oh, he there because the police looking for him. He on their wanted list.
Wanted persons in your phone now?
Yes, child. And when police want to find anybody quick, after something happen, they can send pictures direct to your phone. Go to Google Play or App Store and search for Crack Crime Bahamas. Then pick install and it will go straight to your phone.
There is also a section on missing persons.
Yes, girl. Everybody needs to get this app so police can tell us right away when these people go missing. Just like like an alert system.
Yes, it has numbers for Crime Stoppers Bahamas, so you can call and nobody knows it's you. Call directly to Miami and give the information without giving your name or anything about you. I tried the other day, and when I hear Junior and his boys talking about where they hide those guns, I walk quick round the corner and call that number.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
I've been up at Pinda and I meet him in his showroom. I said, Pinda, I just come out of a showroom in Portugal, and let me tell you something, damn showroom and selection ain't got nothing on yours. Man, I like this stock of porcelain and ceramic tile you got here. What I really like is the range of sizes that come in, 8 by 48, 12 by 24, 24 by 24, and what I really like more than the things I really like is the price. From $275 a square foot to $494 a square foot and all in between. You can't beat that, not even with a 2x4 from Enterprises.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio AM with CA Newry. And of course, I have Aaron Green here and Ian Munnings with me. The government saying we need more money. They're reallocating money so we can increase our travel budget. We tend to travel in order to get more money to expose the Bahamas and highlight the Bahamas. One of the things that we tend to travel for is this environmental, what I call thing?
Climate.
The climate change thing. We spend lots of money there because as part of our Prime Minister's platform, it's one of his feathers in his hat that he's leading the charge for climate control or
Climate finance justice.
yes, and all of that, right?
That's why. Hold on. Sorry.
And I wanted to know whether we getting bang for our buck, whether this spending money we are able to expose the Bahamas, highlight the Bahamas, get access to new monies, or we have to continue to borrow money.
We can calculate what has been spent thus far. It's clear in the budget it would have said what all monies would have been spent. The question is, you're on a crusade stating for the environment. However, we turn around, you did the SpaceX thing. That kind of threw me right away.
I like your confidence in the whole budget figures. But the point being made, you've spent millions of dollars traveling the world for many purposes, one of them being this climate justice and climate finance justice, right? I want to make that distinction. Climate finance justice portfolio to turn around and essentially ignore the concerns of environmentalists in the country for an aeronautical project that's centered in perhaps, which many people would argue, is one of the most important places on the planet. Not just the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, not just the Ministry of Tourism, which apparently is in and of itself and has been establishing its own sovereignty, right? Like, I guess you all don't understand what it means for tourism to have its own consolidated fund, right? It is establishing its own sovereignty like it's its own nation. But what was the purpose of spending all that money to ask for all that help to preserve the environment if you forcing us at home to look up, pun intended, at your absolute disregard for the environmental impact and implications of introducing aeronautical operations
Major conflict.
This nature, because many of y'all gonna say, Aaron, we've been in the space industry for a long time. Oh, let me tell y'all something. The whole premise of my argument in the gender equality referendum, which was successful, by the way, was that Peter Maynard Sr. was protesting the dumping of chemicals and waste byproduct from chemical warfare post World War I and World War II in Bahamian waters and Caribbean waters. Right? Nobody was talking about it. So what exactly are you doing with the money?
It seems as if you are doubting the Prime Minister and his agenda, right? So we have a caller here also that you see climate change is important to him, important to this administration, but now you're questioning whether the sincerity of it.
No, not the sincerity.
Not the sincerity of it.
No, 'cause
the reality is he says one thing and then we're seeing something totally different.
I'm not even going there. Or
That's the reality.
Hold on, what that implies. I'm questioning their capacity to realize their own policies. He may be well-intentioned. He may be very sincere in this effort. What they're not sincere about is their capacity to actualize and realize their own agenda.
Or the commitment to.
No, I'm not questioning.
If you're committed, then you wouldn't do it.
No, I'm not questioning the commitment. But I'm going to make this distinct point. It is possible that they are absolutely and 1,000% committed.
What would you challenge in the government, who critiquing the government? I come to you calling now. Kermit, patch that caller through. Who challenge the government about their spending habit, that they're spending too much.
The tax is killing the people.
Or after the caller.
The taxes are killing the people. And this is reality.
Thank you for your patience.
Are killing
Let
the
the
people.
caller talk and we can answer afterwards.
Go ahead, caller.
Thank you so much for each of you in the studio, Ciala and Johnson. Aaron, a lot of people have a absolute desire to be millionaires and billionaires, but their ambition is greater than their ability.
Mm-hmm.
And this explains most of the time these political platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is they gather words and become wordsmiths and tactically put these together, and we never test the competence of the team to actually execute, considering a habit of how we have seen has been done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we have built a shanty town of an economy. And you see us patching tourism. And, like how you say we are lacking housing in the Bahamas, but yet we have wealthy housing that's happening.
Hold on. Just stick a pin. Home Sweet Home program was announced in Exuma. 60 homeowners, I think, received each to enable them to turn their home or part of their home into an Airbnb.
Right. No, that wasn't a sweet home. That was the TDC program.
Right, but they call it Home Sweet Home.
Right. But the Home Sweet Home was the rent-to-own program that cannot be done in the manner it is intended to be done, because the income levels of the Bahamians needed to enter the Home Sweet Home program requires $72,000 per year to qualify.
I'm not laughing at you, sir.
She's laughing at the figures.
No, this is an absolute fact. You can call any bank. To buy a government home requires an income of $72,000 a year. The problem is, this is why when you qualify for a government home, you just get about 5 of your family friends to sign for you, because it doesn't matter once you get it in the house. They'll take a decade, 2 decades to evict you, and then you can just go to the mortgage corporation and ask them why 70% of their loans, and so because the income doesn't match the ambition. And so the problem is that this is what I'm saying. We don't have any strategy to actually solve any of the issues that we have. And this is why you can't find any written policy anywhere for any time in the past. You can't find any executable strategies for any of the platforms, more so for the Blueprint for Change. In fact, I can show you where 85% or more of the things in the Blueprint for Change has totally been forgotten. This is why they're saying they need another 5 years just to do another 85% of what they promised us for this time, but they won't be able to do it for the, whatever they promised us for the next time.
You won't believe the Blueprint of Change for Change was completed, like 90% of it, 80 to 90% of it was completed?
Less than 10%. You can read it. Just read it. Let's just start with the one thing, like how we say we're trying to find out for the countries, right? The most important thing, the promise that we will look at every single island in its own totality and look at the issues and problems facing those islands.
Helen, what is the percentage you said that has been done thus far? I don't understand the percentage. What percentage is that?
No, 15% has been started. None
Not
of it
done.
is finished.
So what has
Right,
been
no.
finished? What percentage you said been finished?
0.
Oh, Jesus.
See, let me ask you a question. If I decide that I want, in the blueprint for change, I say to you that it is my intent to jump across a 10-foot ditch, and I jump 9 foot across. Do I count the attempt or do I count the success?
It depends on if you're using PLP math or not. See, Alan Johnson, I want to...
But just let me say this, right? Until we seriously look at the fact that we need a reform, and this is why you talk about immigration. 10 people a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks gives you 260 times 10 years, give you 26,660, right? And that only that's in one newspaper that's been published for people who's applying for citizenship. The problem is that the reason why we haven't had growth is because individuals can't afford for growth, and so this is why we've had an open immigration policy that actually has degraded the quality of life in the Bahamas as opposed to have any strategy. I challenge any of you in the room, take your time and come back to me on Monday, that you can actually find an executable national development strategy beyond this plan, which is a book of ideas. And just let me say, Ms. Green, when the national development strategy plan was released, Greg Morse and I, who were part of a political party sitting in the House of Assembly, challenged the National Development Plan on the same very station, causing them to withdraw it because they had not even considered the Millennium Development Goals. They went back and changed some things and never came back to the public and just simply published it. I say it's a book of ideas. And until we get serious with national development and have real conversations rather than around the surface, we will continue to do the same thing over and over again and be surprised with the same result. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you, C. Allen. So back to the point you made about just talking about money, finding the money. Newry, Alan talking about finding executable national strategy. I still looking for the expenditure report for the 50th anniversary celebrations. I still want to know how much the flowers at the tea party cost, Newry. The one where, what they serve the people? They serve them rice and one piece of meat and then a medallion, a carrot, and one big broccoli tree, like a palm tree. That's what they serve the people?
The people still waiting on the airport in Louisville.
So we ain't got time. We didn't get time for that. We ain't got time for that. We still want to know what the Golden Jubilee costs. We still want to know how it is y'all caused Jack Thompson to say something.
They'll get to it.
Let me tell you something. When Jack Thompson said...
But they'll get to it,
when Jack Thompson
Aaron,
said...
they will get to
when
it.
Jack Thompson said, my pen is in the numbers right now, I had to break my brain. You remember the quote, the Bible verse when Jesus say, you say that women are being lusty over there and causing you to sin, pluck out your eye? I had to break my brain.
You got the environmental report yet?
I'm trying to tell you something.
Did you get the environmental report yet?
For what?
For the
which one?
SpaceX. For the SpaceX.
I'm still waiting on the environmental report for many things like the.
Well, Mr. Mitchell say you don't have to answer them right now.
Like the fire, in North Andros that burned down the entire BPL station.
CA Aaron is just trying to start.
Or
mischief.
the 2018 fire that destroyed the generator. Report for why the pieces of concrete were falling out of the building. That y'all put everything in the building before you realized that it was not fit for purpose.
Next week.
You have the report by next week?
We can have the PLP's blue, what do you call it? What's the name?
Blueprint for change.
Blue, da-da-dee-da-da-da.
Change, right?
Blueprint
And we will
for
analyze
change.
it, and we will challenge C. Allen Johnson in terms of how
Yes.
much was started and completed. That's what we can do next week. We can have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and say, check. See, they did that.
Check.
Check. Or they
did
started that, we can give a C, and then give a report card grade and say, this blueprint for change for year 4 is adequate. They
Mr.
passed.
Newry, I'd like to thank you for not letting me see the text line today. I have a feeling like my spirit is resting well because I didn't see the text line today.
Perhaps the government is making the honor roll and you're just giving them a C grade.
They say a D is satisfactory. They expect a C?
This has been Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry. Thank you very much, Aaron Green. Thank you very much, Ian Munnings. Have a wonderful day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.